You're sitting at the kitchen table with your parents, or maybe you're 32 and staring at a loan balance on your phone that hasn't moved in 3 years. Either way, there's a number in front of you. The college website says tuition is $12,000 a year for in-state, maybe $25,000 for out-of-state. You do the math. 4 years, $48,000 to $100,000. You take a deep breath and tell yourself that's the price of a good career. That's the investment in your future. That's what it costs. Except it's not what it costs. It's not even close to what it costs. That tuition number is the bait. It's the first price they show you, and it works exactly the same way every other industry works when it wants you to commit before you understand the full picture. By the time you figure out what college actually costs, you've already signed the loans, moved into a dorm, and built your entire identity around being a student at a place that's charging you more per month than most people's rent. My name is Kai, and I spend way too much time thinking about money and why the financial decisions that are supposed to set you up for life are usually the ones that set you back the furthest. If you're about to go to college, currently in college, or still paying off a degree you finished years ago and wondering where all the money actually went, make sure to subscribe and hit the like button if this helps you understand what higher education really costs when you do the honest math. Here's something that should probably be illegal, but definitely isn't. The sticker price of college, the number on the website, the number your guidance counselor showed you, has almost nothing to do with what you'll actually pay over the course of getting a degree. There's a reason that first number sticks in your head. Colleges have studied the same behavioral psychology as airlines and hotels. Show a manageable number early, get the emotional commitment, then let the real cost reveal itself after it's too late to back out, without feeling like you wasted everything you already invested. Let's start with tuition, because that's the number everyone fixates on, and the number that matters the least in the total equation. The average annual tuition at a public 4-year university is roughly $11,000 for in-state students. Over 4 years, that's $44,000. For private universities, the average is around $42,000 per year, or $168,000 over 4 years. Most people hear those numbers and either panic or start rationalizing. But here's the thing. Tuition, the number that dominates every conversation about college affordability, typically accounts for less than half of what you'll actually spend, sometimes significantly less. And the reason most people don't realize this until they're buried in it is that every other cost gets presented separately, in different offices, on different forms, at different times, so you never see the full picture in one place. Room and board is where the financial bleeding starts in earnest, and it's the category that turns a manageable tuition bill into a life-altering debt burden. The average cost of on-campus room and board at a public university is around $12,500 per year. At a private school, it's closer to $15,000. Over 4 years, that's $50,000 to $60,000 just for a shared room the size of a parking space and a meal plan that's heavy on pasta and institutional-grade chicken. Think about that for a second. Room and board costs more than tuition at most public universities. The place you sleep and the food you eat costs more than the education you're supposedly there to receive. And this isn't optional. Most schools require freshmen to live on campus and buy a meal plan. Some require it for 2 years. You're not choosing this expense. It's built into the commitment the moment you accept admission. The school knows you need somewhere to live, and they've priced that necessity accordingly. Here's what makes this even worse. Meal plans are structured so that you almost always overpay. Most plans give you a set number of meals or dining dollars per semester. If you don't use them all, they don't roll over. you lose them. If you need more, you pay extra. The dining hall is open during specific hours that may not align with your class schedule, so you end up buying food separately anyway. Students routinely spend $1,500 to $3,000 per year on food beyond their meal plan. Coffee, late-night runs, delivery when you're studying. It adds up relentlessly. And if you move off campus to save money, which most students eventually do, you're now paying rent, utilities, groceries, internet, and all the other costs of running a household. Depending on the city, that's $800 to $1,500 per month. Many students find that living off campus doesn't actually save them anything. It just shifts who they're writing the check to. Now let's talk about fees, because this is where colleges have turned nickel and diming into high art. Student activity fees, technology fees, health center fees, recreation center fees, library fees, lab fees if you're in a science program, parking fees if you have a car, orientation fees before you've attended a single class, application fees before you've been accepted, graduation fees when you leave. These add $1,500 to $4,000 per year on top of tuition, and they're often not included in the advertised tuition number. Over 4 years, you're looking at $6,000 to $16,000 in mandatory fees that serve the same purpose as resort fees at hotels. They exist to make the base price look lower than it actually is. And just like resort fees, they're non-negotiable. You're paying them whether you use the gym, visit the health center, or attend a single student activity. Textbooks and course materials used to be the line item that made students physically angry, and they still should. Despite digital options and rental programs, the average student spends $500 to $1,200 per year on textbooks and required materials. Some STEM courses require software licenses that run $100 to $400 per semester. Over 4 years, that's $2,000 to $5,000 on materials that become obsolete the moment a new edition comes out, which publishers conveniently schedule every 2 years specifically to kill the used book market. Let me pause here. We're 4 categories in: tuition, room and board, fees, and textbooks. And we've already gone from a $44,000 tuition estimate to roughly $115,000 for a public university student. We've nearly tripled the number that was on the website. And we haven't even talked about the costs that don't appear on any college billing statement. Transportation is the invisible budget killer. If you're going to school in a different city, you need to get home for breaks. Thanksgiving, winter break, spring break, summer. That's 4 to 6 round trips per year. Flights, gas money, or bus tickets add $500 to $2,000 per year, depending on distance. If you have a car on campus, add insurance, gas, maintenance, and parking permits. Over 4 years, transportation quietly adds $2,000 to $10,000, depending on your situation. Personal expenses are the category that every financial aid office dramatically understates and every student dramatically underestimates. Your phone bill, clothing, toiletries, social activities, the occasional meal out because you can't face the dining hall again, coffee, laundry, medical co-pays, and the 100 other small costs of simply being a human who exists in the world. Conservatively, $2,000 to $4,000 per year. Over 4 years, $8,000 to $16,000. And this is the category where the college experience itself works against you financially. You're surrounded by thousands of people your age, all spending money, going out, buying things, joining activities with dues and costs attached. The social pressure to participate is constant and pervasive. Saying no to a $30 dinner with friends or a $50 concert ticket doesn't just cost you money you saved. It costs you socially. And 18 to 22-year-olds who are simultaneously building their adult identities and their social networks are particularly bad at making that trade. So they don't. They spend. And they justify it as the college experience, which is a phrase that has probably cost American students more money than any single line item on a tuition bill. Now, let's bring this together, because the total is the part that changes how you think about this decision. Tuition over 4 years at a public university, $44,000. Room and board, $50,000. Fees, $10,000. Textbooks and materials, $3,500. Transportation, $5,000. Personal expenses, $12,000. Total cost of attendance before a single dollar of interest, approximately $124,500 for a public school. For a private university, using the same additional cost categories, you're looking at $230,000 to $280,000. And here's a detail that changes the math even further. I've been saying 4 years, but only 45% of students at public universities actually graduate in 4 years. The average is closer to 5 years. The 6-year graduation rate at public schools is around 65%, which means more than a third of students either take 6+ years or never graduate at all. Every extra year adds another $25,000 to $35,000 in costs while delaying the income that was supposed to justify the whole investment. If you graduate in 5 years instead of 4, your total cost of attendance at a public school is closer to $155,000. That extra year isn't just expensive. It's a year of earning $0 while paying full price for the privilege of still being a student. And I want to be clear about how I'm framing this number. This isn't the worst-case scenario. This isn't the student who parties every weekend and buys a new wardrobe every semester. This is the cost of showing up, living in a basic room, eating institutional food, in buying the books you're required to buy, and existing as a normal human for 4 years while attending a state school. This is what responsible looks like. That's what makes it so alarming. But we're not done, because the number above assumes you pay cash, and almost nobody pays cash. The average college graduate leaves school with roughly $30,000 in student loan debt. That might sound manageable compared to the total cost, but here's where the math gets genuinely ugly. At 5.5% interest on a 10-year standard repayment plan, you'll pay about $38,600 total for that $30,000 loan. That's $8,600 in interest, which is money you're paying for the privilege of borrowing money that you needed because the education itself cost more than you had. At a 20-year plan, you'll pay over $49,000 total, nearly $20,000 in interest alone. And if you end up in income-driven repayment, which is increasingly common because graduates can't afford standard payments on entry-level salaries, your monthly payment might not even cover the interest. Your balance can actually grow for years while you're making payments on time every single month. You open the app, you see a bigger number than last month, and you're doing everything right. That's not a repayment plan. That's a trap with a government seal on it. The median student loan payment is roughly $300 to $400 per month. That's money that could be going toward a down payment, an emergency fund, retirement savings, or just living without the constant background stress of knowing you owe someone tens of thousands of dollars. For many graduates, student loans become the single largest monthly expense after rent, lasting well into their 30s and sometimes their 40s. And here's the cost that almost nobody calculates, the one that makes everything above look like the easy part. Because money isn't the only thing college takes from you. It also takes time, and time is the one resource you can never earn back. When you go to college, you're not just spending money, you're also not earning money. For 4 years, your income is effectively zero, or close to it. Most students work part-time jobs that barely cover their personal expenses. Meanwhile, compound interest doesn't wait for you to graduate. It's running from the day you turn 18, whether you're investing or not. If instead of going to college, an 18-year-old worked a modest full-time job, nothing glamorous, no promotions assumed, just $35,000 per year, and invested $500 per month at 8% annual returns, after 4 years they'd have earned $140,000 in income and built an investment portfolio worth roughly $28,000. By age 65, that $28,000 alone, without adding another dollar, would grow to over $700,000. That's not hypothetical. That's basic compound interest math. Meanwhile, the college graduate spent 4 years earning little to nothing, accumulated $30,000 in debt, and enters the workforce 4 years later, starting from a negative net worth. Even with a higher salary, it typically takes 10 to 15 years for the college graduate's net worth to catch up to someone who started working and investing at 18. For some degrees, especially in lower-paying fields, the crossover point gets pushed further and further out. And for the 35% who started college but didn't finish, the math is catastrophic. All the debt, all the opportunity cost, none of the credential that was supposed to make it worth it. Now, before anyone thinks I'm saying college is a scam, I'm not. Some careers require a degree. Medicine, engineering, law, certain sciences. The data is clear that on average, college graduates earn significantly more over their lifetimes. The median college graduate earns about $1.2 million more over a career than the median high school graduate. That's real. But averages hide enormous variation. A computer science degree from a state school has a completely different return than a liberal arts degree from a private school that cost 3 times as much. The question isn't whether college is worth it. The question is whether your specific degree from your specific school at your specific cost is worth it compared to your realistic alternatives. And almost nobody runs that calculation before committing. The higher education industry relies on a single, unexamined belief that college is always worth it. That belief is the equivalent of the $280 flight or the $150 adoption fee. It's the anchor. It gets you to commit emotionally before you've done the math. And once you're in, the switching costs are enormous. Transferring means losing credits you've already paid for. Dropping out means the debt without the degree. Changing your major means adding semesters. Every semester you complete makes leaving harder, even if the numbers stopped making sense 2 years ago. And the system reinforces this at every level. High school counselors measure success by college acceptance rates. Parents measure it by the name on the diploma. Society treats a 4-year degree as the default path to adulthood and anything else as settling. That social pressure is its own form of anchoring. You're not just financially committed, you're identity committed. Walking away from college doesn't just feel like a financial loss, it feels like a personal failure. And that feeling keeps people paying for semesters they can't afford, pursuing degrees that won't pay for themselves, at institutions that have no financial incentive to tell them the truth. If you look at all of this and say, yes, this specific degree at this specific price will open doors that justify the total cost, and I can graduate without debt that will cripple me for a decade, that's an informed decision. Make it confidently. A nursing degree, an engineering degree, A computer science degree from a state school where you minimize borrowing can still be one of the best financial decisions of your life. The data supports that. But if you're going to college because it's what everyone does, because your parents expect it, because you don't know what else to do at 18 and you're borrowing 6 figures to figure it out, you're not investing in your future. You're financing an assumption. And assumptions at 5.5% interest have a way of defining your financial life for the next 20 years. The solution isn't to skip college. The solution is to treat it like what it is. One of the 3 or 4 largest financial decisions you'll ever make, right alongside buying a house, and in many cases, more expensive. Run the real numbers, not the tuition number. Factor in every cost on this list. Compare the total against realistic starting salaries in your chosen field, not the top 10% outcomes your school's marketing department puts on the brochure. And make the decision with open eyes instead of an anchored brain. People who build wealth don't avoid education. They refuse to confuse the sticker price with the actual cost. They know exactly what they're buying, what they're borrowing, and what they're giving up, and they make sure the math works before they sign anything. That tuition number on the website? It's the beginning of a much longer receipt, and if you don't read the whole thing before you commit, you'll spend the next decade finding out what was on it. Sitting at a different table, staring at a different number, wondering how $12,000 a year turned into the thing that defines your entire financial life.